and they're all undergoing the acrosomal reaction. And here comes this sperm swimming along, dopey-dope, took a time to take a break, took a nap halfway through there, took a breather in the fallopian tube, and sure enough, along comes Clyde, and he's the fertilizing sperm right there. Now, really, sperm don't have names. I'm just making that up. But just the same, that's what's happening there. And the acrosomal reaction happens, and we're not going to read this whole cell. I just want to show out some things. It says there are specific receptor molecules that's on the head of the sperm, and they have lock and key recognition of molecules that ensure that eggs will be fertilized by only sperm of the same animal species. Let's look at a picture of that. Here you go. Sperm comes up. In the acrosome you have what? The enzymes. They're released and they dissolve. Now, of course, we know that many of these would have to happen, but it's showing it all taking place with one sperm. Now, as they dissolve, and this is the outer coat of the egg. Does everybody see that? It's the outer coat of the egg. On the outer coat of the egg, there are bind-in receptors. That's what these little dots are representing. These little receptors on the egg. And inside the head of the sperm, it sends out an acrosomal process, a bind-in substance, which projects out. And it has a lock and key recognition with these receptors on the egg. So that projector comes out. If it finds a receptor, it binds with it. So you have to have the receptor on the egg. You have to have this tubule projection inside the head of the sperm. It begins to project it out. It finds the receptor. It locks with it. And then once it locks with it, it'll bind the plasma membrane or the cellular membrane of the sperm. It binds that with the membrane of the egg. And it doesn't show it here, but there are actually little projections that come out of the egg. They grab the nucleus of the sperm, which is containing the chromosomes, which is all the egg really wants. It contains the chromosomes, and it pulls them into the egg. And fertilization then has taken place. But of course, in order for this to happen, you have to have receptors evolving, you have to have binding revolving, you have to have the projection things evolving, you have to have all these things evolving all at once in order for that to happen. And even though hundreds of sperm are needed for fertilization, you only want how many sperm fertilizing an egg? One. So there's some blocking mechanisms to do it. We're not going to read through all of these, but there's two of them. One of them is called the fast block. And it says there, even before the sperm nucleus slips into the egg, fusion of the gamete causes a nerve-like electrical response by the plasma membrane of the egg. And it shocks off all the other sperm, and it bars other sperm cells from fusing with the plasma membrane. It says there, this fast block to polyspermy, which occurs in much less than a second, prevents multiple fertilization. And I'll show you a picture of what that happens here. The picture says both of these. And then the cortical reaction, which is the slow block, it says after the sperm basically fuses with the egg, it causes ionic calcium to be released into the oocyte cytoplasm. In other words, it's going to cause some channels to be opened. Calcium ions are going to be released into the cytoplasm surrounding the egg, and when the calcium spills into the cytoplasm, water molecules are going to follow to keep the correct gradient and the correct ratio of molecules to water. And it says here, this spilled material binds water, and as it swells, it detaches all sperm still in contact with the oocyte membrane, accomplishing the permanent slow block to polyspermy. And here's a picture here. We'll explain it. So, as this sperm immediately touches these bind-in receptors, what's the first block that's going to happen? It's the fast block, and it is an electrical charge. Now, that's kind of cool. It touches it, and then it's just like you would see in the movies. You would find this zzz going around the outside of the egg, and any of the sperm still touching that baby, they react just like anything else that gets shocked. They jump back. And it repels the sperm still surrounding the egg. It shocks them away. And then, once it binds here, inside the egg, that's what these little tiny, tiny dots are. They're little pictures of calcium. And calcium is flooding into this thin space here, and it's flooding it in, and it binds water, and it causes it to swell so thick that no other sperm can get in there. And it blocks it. Now that's kind of cool. You have all that trouble to get one sperm cell in there, but you want one and only one. One and only one. And then you have these two processes which keep it that way. I wonder how long through trial and error and random genetic mistakes it took for the slow evolutionary process and natural selection to pick those things out. Because what happens if it doesn't happen? If you end up with two sperm, that happens very, very rarely, they form and they confuse, and as it says there, a partial hydidiform mole may develop. Well, what's that? Well, that's what happens here if you had two sperm fusing with an egg and the blocks didn't work. If there was a breakdown, you would end up with what? 23X and two sperm, 23X or 23Y, whatever that combination is. You end up with how many chromosomes? 69. And instead of developing into a baby, it can develop into this. This is a picture of a uterus which has been taken from a woman's body. It's been cut in half so you can see inside the uterus. This is the cervix right here. Here's the vagina, here's the cervix, and here's the uterus. And what's developing in here? It's not a baby. It's just tissue. It's a growth. It's almost like a cancerous type of growth with a tumor. And it's growing, and it's growing, and it's bigger, and it could cause the uterus to burst, which would do what to mom? Kill her. Kill her. So, you know, if you don't block the sperm and just get one, the results are just not that benign. And so I'm arguing that this whole process is complex beyond your wildest imaginations. And believe me, we could make it even more complex than we said tonight. It's far more complex than that. And that's just to get to fertilization. And this is strong evidence for design. Now we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll hear the rest of the story. From fertilization up to delivery. Because that's even, but I hate to say it, that's the maternal part, and it's even better than this one. All right, let's take a break. Thank you.